So, funny story time. I've often said that my life is just a raging joke, and in a lot of ways it kind of is. So when I was in college, I'm going to embarrass a lot of people, and I hope to God these people aren't watching any of these videos. It is customary in rugby, especially in the era I come from. I played rugby in the early 90s. And there was an old saying, when rugby was dangerous, what was the saying? When we played rugby, men were men, women were women, and sheep were very much afraid. Read into that all you want. I had a friend of mine and a roommate and someone who I really, really liked. And still to this day, I think about this person regularly. His name was Ted. Now, that's not his real name. That's his nickname. And Ted was the most incredible character I'd ever met. This guy was calm under pressure. This guy was just an amazing guy, and I really liked him. And I don't think he ever knew how much I really liked him. And he just was this amazing dude. And I had two stories, and both of them involve Ted. One's quick, one's not. The first time I was ever in a shooting, believe it or not, I was in a shooting once. And it happened on a off-campus party at the football team's house. And it's my first Saturday night after playing my very first rugby game. And first off, I'm experiencing a level of pain and that I didn't think a human being could feel, but yet found it strangely appealing. The pain you feel after a rugby game, it's amazing. So we're outside. All of a sudden you hear pop, 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 pop. And Ted looked at me and said, "Time to go." I mean, bullets are flying and this person is so calm, cool, and collected that he just said, "Time to go." And off we went. But that's not the story we're going to talk about tonight. The story we're going to talk about tonight is the night when Ted showed me what, I don't even know what this was. So here's the story. Ted and I were out at this party and we're talking to this girl, and Ted was really, really, all over this girl. And it was kind of funny because Ted was just how he was. And he had this mannerism. First off, it's really important to note that Ted was the biggest kid on campus. And when I say big, I don't mean big fat. I mean, he was a bodybuilder. He was massive. He was a massive guy. He was a rugby player. He just was not the person you really wanted to mess with. But he was the softest guy in the world. Like, Ted couldn't hurt a fly even if he wanted to. However, we're talking to this girl. And I'm kind of just watching the show. I'm not really into this girl. I had a girlfriend at the time, and I really wasn't paying attention. Just hanging out watching the show. And her boyfriend comes over, and he's a smaller guy. I mean, even by, I'm not the biggest guy in the world, but even I was like, wow, you're a small guy. And he gets in Ted's face, well, what are you supposed to do? This guy's chatting up your girlfriend. I mean, it was a different time, okay? And Ted is just standing there talking to this girl, and this guy comes up, and Ted always had a beer in one hand and a cigar in the other. And let me paint a full picture. He always wore a black Framingham State rugby baseball cap turned backwards. He always wore his black Framingham State rugby jacket, black pants, and boots. That was the look. That was the look we all kind of had, but Ted nailed that look. It was cool and intimidating all at the same time. And so there he is, this gigantic guy, hat turned backwards, beer in one hand, cigar in the other. And this kid is in his face, and the party kind of stops because you don't talk to Ted that way. And this kid was really drawing it out. And finally, just came that moment where, like, you got to do something. And I'm really kind of like backing off. I'm like, I don't want to get this kid's blood and bone on me, and he's calling Ted every name in the book. And Ted is just standing there drinking his beer, smoking a cigar. And then finally this kid kind of just throws something out. I forgot what it was. He called Ted some name and challenged him, this and that. And the room went silent. I mean, it was like the wild, wild west, like this tumbleweed goes rolling by, and this drunk kid runs across the room trying to get out of the way of this impending fight. And All Ted does, he stands there with his beer in his hand and cigar and looks this kid square in the eye, and this is exactly what happened. Flicks his ashes in this kid's beer and said, "Go away, kid. You bother me." I did not know what to do. I didn't. I had never, ever, ever seen anything like that, heard about anything like that. This was the diss of disses. This was, you will never be the same after that. You have two choices. One, doesn't matter how much bigger this guy is, doesn't matter how bad he's going to beat you up, you swing. End of story. You swing. Or you tuck your tail between your legs and you walk away. And when Ted flicked his ashes in this kid's beer and said, "Go away, kid, you bother me," there was nothing. There was nothing. This kid walked away. Just walked away. And the girl, the girl looks around and she says something I never thought I'd hear anybody say. She said, "I guess I belong to you now." And I just I walked away. I walked away. That was one of the wildest nights, but it gets so much wilder. I mean, like playing rugby and knowing these people in college, you know, I dare say that my college experience at my generation, we were the last generation to actually live Animal House. And when I say live Animal House, I mean, we got stories and stories. And I'm going to tell you guys a lot of them. But yeah, you know, these are the things that I always talk about when I'm drinking champagne or when I'm talking about my life and things like that. It's the people I've met and the people I know. And that's all I can say. So that's a funny story. So, hey, thanks for hanging out. Champagne every day. Thank you.